Jonathan Marchessault is coming to Nashville, and he's going to add three very important elements to this Predators lineup.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast, and thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this episode with a shout out to our Locked On Pred heads. Those are our everyday listeners who tune in each and every weekday to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. We appreciate your support, and we love that we get to spend just a little bit of your day with you. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer with Penalty Box Radio, and my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I am the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
So yesterday we heard from new Nashville Predator Jonathan Marchessault, and on today's show we're going to share some of his comments about coming to Nashville, and he's going to talk about the importance of that Stamkos connection. We're also going to talk about how his presence in the lineup and locker room could impact the season. Plus, wrapped up day 2 of development camp, we're going to give you a little update on a few of the other Predators prospects. But before we dive into all that, want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. So Emma, Barry Trotz was a madman on Monday, signed Steven Stamkos, signed Brady Skjei, and had you said at the end of Monday, oh my gosh, Stamkos and Brady Skjei, amazing, but holy cannoli, he went and got Jonathan Marchessault as well. This signing, when you put it, Jonathan Marchessault in and of himself is a game changer. He's a roster lineup changer, but you put him in the grouping with what Barry Trotz did on Monday, and this Nashville Predators season is wide open.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Marchessault, he makes you scary, I think. Like he's a scary addition in a good way for the Predators. I think he's one of those guys that a high quality player, obviously he's a 40 goal scorer, but a high quality person too. And we know that that's something that is really important to Barry Trotz and building this team. That's why he went and got guys like Ryan O'Reilly, Gus Nyquist, Luke Schenn last offseason, was to kind of build that culture. And so I think that Marchessault kind of falls into that category as well, which is funny because on the ice, sometimes you would never guess what a nice guy he is.
Yes.
Bit of a hothead.
He's got some spice.
He's passionate. You know what? He's
Yes.
passionate. And I think that I think he'll fit into the Andrew Brunette system really well too.
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the things I think that when you look at this piece coming into Nashville is such a great fit, is he does have that edge. He has that grit. He has kind of that, sandpaper play to him. And that's something that he noticed about Nashville as well. Like they had this hardworking mentality. And so I think his style of play is going to complement very well what Barry Trotz and what Andrew Brunette are trying to pull out, especially of the younger players as well. So when you bring in these veterans who that is their style of game, that is kind of who they are on the ice, I think that's going to help these younger players tap into that themselves as well. So yeah, he is spicy. He is spicy on the ice. Also, offensive weapon coming to town here. Coming off of a career season. He's 33 years old, career season last year, 82 games played, 42 goals. 69 points, 42 goals. It was like, he was like, hey, Gustav Nyquist, I heard us older guys can do some stuff. Let's do it. And he did, and here's the thing. Will he replicate a 40 goal season next season? We don't know, but if he can score 42 goals, even if you lowball it, you're looking at somebody that's going to contribute 25, 30 goals to this Nashville Predators offense. And those are goals they need.
Yeah, absolutely. They need depth scoring. Like that was one of the biggest needs. And if a 40 goal scorer is a depth piece for you, that's a pretty good situation to be in. Now, again, like you said, maybe he won't replicate that. Maybe he will. Who knows? But either way, the Predators have needed all the goals they can get. It can't just be coming from that top line of Forsberg, O'Reilly, and Nyquist. Not saying that that's still going to be the top line next year. Who knows? We still have to wait and see. But I think that, yeah, they can use all the goal scoring they can get. And so the fact that they added, 42 from Marchessault and 40 from Stamkos, yeah, that's huge. They really need that.
That's a lot of goals. And for me, when you look at Marchessault's game, it's not just quantity of goals, which is impressive for sure, but it's the way that he can score goals. And if you go back and you look at this past season, this is a guy who is so good scoring in like 2-on-1 situations. He seems to always make the correct read. He seems to always be able to bury the puck in a 2-on-1, situation. And that's something that Nashville struggled to do at times. That, there were times where they would generate these rush chances, but couldn't finish. And so I look at him and I think, okay, if you can get the puck going up the ice quickly, this is a guy that can finish that. He's also great finding the puck in those net front situations. He had a goal last season where he found the puck in midair and just tapped it in midair. And I'm thinking, I couldn't do that, not on skates. So shout out to him. But, great at tough angle shots. This is also another guy who can score those empty net goals. Put him on the ice when it's a 1-goal game and you've got 3 minutes left, and he's going to seal the deal for you. So for me, this is not just quantity of offense, but this is a guy who brings a variety of scoring to the Nashville Predators. And I think that's something that they need as well.
Yeah, definitely. They need scoring in all situations, and a lot of that is mental too, like being able to play with a lead, play while you're trailing, like be able to come back, from behind. And those are things that you kind of just you learn with experience, and that's why, having these veteran guys, I think, is going to be so helpful.
I love you mentioned coming from behind. We got a chance to talk yesterday to Jonathan Marchessault, and he shared, hey, here were the things that enticed me to come to Nashville. He was also asked about that overtime loss Vegas had when they were clearly going to win the game against Nashville, and Nashville came back in the third period, tied it up, and won the game at overtime to extend at the Predators' point streak. Let's hear from Jonathan Marchessault about why he's coming to Nashville, and then he shares how he felt about that overtime Vegas loss.
Well, that was always one of the teams that I liked the most. It was a matter to see if they have interest. Obviously, I kind of knew June 30th at night that Vegas was not going to do much for me. So after that, it was time. I was disappointed that night. And when I woke up July 1st, I was like, all right, let's make a deal somewhere. And Nashville was definitely the best of both worlds. It was one of the best cities in the NHL, and also a team that wants to win. And that's the two things that I wanted to be in. Yeah, it was definitely annoying that game that we lost against you guys. To be honest, we had that game in the bag, and finally it just comes out that we're not even that we lost it. So I think it's something that we were pretty disappointed, but impressive to see the resiliency that they had. Also with a lot of cap space that they have, So it just shows you that hockey, it doesn't matter who's in the lineup or anything like that. It plays on the ice. So it was all in their honor, and it was definitely a tough game for us, Golden Knights, but good for the Preds.
I love that. You can tell this is a guy who hates to lose. And by the way, he didn't even want to talk about it a few months later. Like, he's not interested. That sucked.
They remember those things. It's like you, and with your invisible backpack of hockey grudges, like that game is definitely in his invisible backpack of hockey grudges. And he's like, yeah, no, I remember. I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
Like,
we had that in the bag. We had that in the bag. But again, we talked about with Steven Stamkos, there are games you play in the middle of a season that is, we talked about game 47. It could be game 29. It could be, it's a game in an 82 game season, but that game could stick in a player's mind like Jonathan Marchessault, and he becomes a free agent and he goes, that team was tenacious. That team was hardworking. That team was relentless. That team, and it makes him say, okay, that's a team I might want to play for. So what you do when you are not center stage in hockey, it absolutely matters. And I think we see that with Stamkos, remembering that point streak as he watched that, with Marchessault saying, yeah, oh, I remember you all came back and beat us in overtime. So yeah, it matters what you do. Coming up, we're going to talk about the details of the deal with Jonathan Marchessault. We're also going to tell you if we have any concerns about how he's going to fit into the lineup. We'll talk about that in just a moment. First, want to let you know today's episode brought to you by Game Time. If you are wanting to find the best tickets at the best prices for fun summer events, you need to go and check out Game Time. Game Time makes getting tickets to your favorite sports, theater, comedy, and concerts fast and easy. No matter what your musical tastes are, Game Time can help you get the best deals on those concert tickets. Green Day is coming in August, and my friends Aerosmith is coming in October, and those deals are already up on Game Time. And hey, if you are more into sports action, you can check out what's available at Game Time for NASCAR, Nashville SC, Nashville Sounds, and more. I love Game Time's all-in pricing. There are never any surprise fees at checkout, and with their low price guarantee, you'll get the best price in your row and section, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So, Emma, we're talking about Jonathan Marchessault. He is coming to Nashville on a 5-year, $5.5 million deal. What is your take on the numbers of this deal?
I'm okay with it. I think, he's 33 years old. So the whole 5-year thing, that puts him at 38, probably at the end of his career, most likely. Which I know people don't love that this roster is getting older, but I think you need to take his age out of it. And I'm okay with 5. I don't think I'd like it if it was more than 5. If it had been like a Brady Shea type deal, I don't think I would like that as much. But I think, you get a 40 goal scorer for under $6 million a year. Like, it's pretty good.
Yes, please. And, a little bump in pay. He was on a $5 million contract. But like you said, with a 5-year term at $5.5 million, and you're getting not just the on ice production, but you are getting somebody who has won a Stanley Cup. You're getting a Conn Smythe winner. You're getting leadership in the locker room. So not only have the Nashville Predators opened their window to be a more serious contender right away, but you are also bringing in some young guys into the locker room who are going to be playing with and learning from a guy like Jonathan Marchessault. Like, this is a win-win, and it's an investment. That $5.5 million is an investment, not just in him, but in whoever he plays with as well. And I know some people have kind of speculated maybe Tommy Novak would center that second line with Marchessault. I'm personally would love to see them give Cody Glass a try. I think we're all waiting to see how the situation with Cody Glass works out. He and Marchessault were together that first season in Vegas. So, kind of an interesting connection there. The other connection worth mentioning is Stamkos and Marchessault. And they played together for a little while in Tampa Bay. And we got the inside scoop from Jonathan Marchessault on his call today. They had a little chit chat on July 1st in the morning. And this is what Jonathan Marchessault had to say about that call.
Well, how it happened is my agent was telling me, okay, well, at first it was like they're interested in all that. And July 1st, it was like, I think they're trying to sign you and Stammer. So I was like, oh, really? I'm like, okay. So like a couple hours goes by and I'm like, why don't I just call him? So I called him and I was like, hey, you signing in Nashville? He's like, yeah. I was like, oh, me too. So it just after that, it was like, oh, perfect. We're gonna go through the process of like looking for homes and all that kind of in schools and all that. So yeah, so that's kind of how it worked out.
Yeah, that's pretty great when you're like, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to Nashville. You thinking about going to Nashville? We should go to Nashville together." And meanwhile, Nashville's like, "I can't believe we got them both."
Yeah, and it's funny too, I think with the similarities between both of their situations, Stamkos and Marchessault. Stamkos, obviously, a little bit in a league of his own in the sense that, the Lightning drafted him. He's played there for 16 years. Like, he's never played anywhere else. He was a captain, all of that. But in a similar way, to maybe like a slightly lesser degree, just because the franchise is still pretty young, Marchessault meant a lot, or means a lot. He's not dead. He still means a lot to that Vegas Golden Knights fan base and
Right.
their franchise history. He was one of the, they call him the original misfits in Vegas, that he was one of those OG guys that came in the expansion draft, and just like really endeared himself to that fan base, and that organization. He was a big part of it. And then obviously, like you mentioned, Stanley Cup, Conn Smythe winner. I mean, that was another one very similar to Stamkos that I said, and I don't think I'm alone in this, was saying like, all right, well, Vegas will figure it out. They'll figure out a way to keep him. Like that,
Right.
I know everyone's talking about, oh, he's a free agent, but like he'll re-sign in Vegas. And then he didn't. And I was like, whoa, okay. And that's why, and this is a small tangent here, just for my own
Take it.
my little baby victory lap. Okay. So the Predators obviously did not sign Chandler Stevenson from Vegas, who is my guy.
Mhm.
But number one, in my defense, I did not know Marchessault would be available. I didn't think he would be available.
Right.
Number two, Barry Trotz went on record with Pierre LeBrun on July 1st and said that we had, quote, serious interest in Chandler Stevenson. So I would just like to say thank you very much. I was not completely off track with that.
That's right.
But Chandler Stevenson went and got himself quite a deal in Seattle, and I don't think that the Predators were willing to offer him that much. So good for him. He got paid. I think it was 7 years,
I think
6.25,
it was, yeah, it
something
was in the
like.
sixes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, good for him. I don't think he was getting that in Nashville. So way to go, Chandler. But anyway, I think yes, the similarities between both of these it's interesting to me, because they're both guys that, it's kind of like when we were talking about Steven Stamkos, we were like, and he was talking about, yeah, it was nice that they were interested in me, and we're like, who wouldn't be interested in you?
Right.
Like, it doesn't make sense. And so again, it's two guys that you feel like on paper, they look like they are highly valued by their franchises, but then the management or the brass there are not willing to make the financial commitment, and that hurts them, like it hurts emotionally, but it kind of hurts your confidence a little bit. Because of the way that Stamkos phrased it was, just trying to hold on to something that's not trying
Mm.
to hold on to you. And it kind of felt similar. Now, I did sense, and this may be just me reading into it, but I sensed a slight difference in tone. Like
I agree.
Stamkos seemed a little more sad, like a little dejected. Like, well, like that's life. I mean, he was very complimentary of Nashville and said he was, didn't want to take away from that, but he seemed very sad. Marchessault seemed kind of pissed off. Like
Yeah, he did.
he seemed a little fiery. He was like it's revenge tour season, baby. Like that's kind of the vibe I got from him. And that's not to say that he's not sad or that Stamkos isn't fired up, but it's just I don't know. I guess it sounds like you did too, and kind of pick up on the difference in tone there. I thought that was interesting.
I absolutely did. And you had mentioned earlier my invisible backpack of hockey grudges. Y'all look out, because you have these two players, and I'm just, I understand that this is a business, and I understand the teams making the decisions that they did, but quite frankly, these were really tough decisions. And I can understand why both Stamkos and Marchessault would feel slighted, to say the least, by this. And I'm like, you all, thank you in Nashville, because you have pissed off two of the wrong players.
Yeah, you
And
poked the bear.
you have poked the bear, and you did not want to do that. The other thing that I will say, in talking about hearing from both of them and how hard the situations had to be with these other franchises, the one thing that I will say about the Nashville Predators fan base is that they will make these guys feel ridiculously appreciated, and
Yeah.
they will not lack a fan base support, here in Nashville. So I think that is great as well. My only concern, and this is just such a minor concern, but he did play with Jack Eichel, who's pretty good. I mean, not terribly shabby, Jack Eichel. And so for me, I think, okay, we're really going to want whoever he plays with to elevate their game, whether that's Tommy Novak, whether that's Cody Glass. I don't think it's going to be Cody Glass, but a girl can have a dream, So I do think whoever plays with Marchessault on a line, they're going to have to elevate their game, because this is a guy who is an outrageous playmaker, and he's going to need a center who can get him the puck in outrageous ways.
That's why, I know people, myself included, are not necessarily keen on the idea of splitting up the Forsberg, the Swedish meatball line.
Correct.
However, I would try to have an open mind to it, because I think the closest guy that, the guy that comes closest to that in terms of a playmaking center that's going to get him the puck is Ryan O'Reilly.
Come on.
So I think whether that means you move O'Reilly down or Marchessault up, I mean, it could go either way, I think. But, another thing, and you mentioned this briefly, talking about, oh, do you want him to play with Tommy Novak as your center or what have you? I think something that's kind of interesting to me, and we could probably talk about this more, is like looking at the roster now and trying to determine what your lines are going to be, what your line combinations are going to be. In a way, now there's enough guys to fill all the spots. That's not the issue, but the issue is like, how are you going to get the most out of each of these guys? And so let's say a lot of people, initial projections say like your second line, Tommy Novak at center, and then you have Stamkos and Marchessault on the wing. On paper, sounds pretty good. But then where does that leave Luke Evangelista?
Yes. And don't you want Luke Evangelista with one of those top 6 players?
Yes.
Isn't that where you want him to develop?
Because otherwise, Luke Evangelista, now he has a spot on the roster. It's just on the third line with Colton Sissons and Mark Jankowski. And love both of those guys, and they do a lot of good things, but generating offense is not one of them. And that's okay. Right. That's not what they're supposed to do. Like, that's not what they bring. And so I just don't think that would be the best like asset management for like with Evangelista in that in that case. But again, that's a whole other tangent. We could talk about potential line combinations for days, and I'm sure we will, because it is a long off season.
That's right. And we have great imagination, so we can come up with a gazillion ways to slot this in. But I do think that is a concern, because you bring in these veteran players, and let's be honest, Nashville has seen veteran players come in last season and light it up. So if I'm Stamkos and Marchessault, I'm saying, I saw what O'Reilly and Nyquist did. I'm going to go and do that too. But you also want them to help develop your Luke Evangelistas, and your players like that, Tommy Novaks and these younger players. That's part of the benefit of signing the players you did as well. So how they sort that out, I think, is going to be really interesting. And I think it's going to take a lot more thought than maybe the initial, oh, it's very obvious this is how it's going to slot in. I think there's, like you said, there's a lot of factors and a lot of options for the Predators when it comes to their lineup. What a great problem to have.
Right?
Oh, feels amazing. Coming up, we're going to talk about another great problem the Nashville Predators have, and that is prospects who are flourishing. Day 2 of development camp wrapped up yesterday. We're going to tell you what we learned from Kalan Lind and Tanner Molendyk. That's coming up in just a moment. Want to let you know about a great new program that Emma and I are kicking off here at Locked On Predators. It is our insider program, kicked off via subtext. Look, this is a very exciting time to be talking about Nashville Predators hockey, and Emma and I are here for it all the time. So if you want to talk Predators hockey beyond the podcast, we want you to join our insider program. You're going to get bonus content. Some of that might be entertaining. You are going to get immediate breaking news reaction, in-game analysis. We want to answer your questions and hear your thoughts. We're going to share some of those on the podcast as well. It's going to be a chance for you to chat with Emma and I about all things Nashville Predators. You can check out the program details by clicking on the link in our bio or the link in the description. All right, Emma, yesterday wrapped up day 2 of my favorite week of the year, and that is development camp. I love watching the little sprouts. And we got to see them yesterday. They did also one of my favorite things, and I know a lot of people don't find this fascinating, but I love the days where they do skating drills with the skating coach, Jackie Munzel, because I lean in and I try to hear through the glass. And the most minute adjustments that she talks about when these players implement them into their skating could potentially change one big aspect of their game. So they did that today. When we talk skating drills, you know that I'm going to be watching Tanner Molendyk. My gosh, as I said to you before the show, Tanner Molendyk skates like Celine Dion used to sing. It is incredible.
It's a great analogy. Great analogy. But he does, it's so like he just glides. Like it almost looks like he's hovering like over the ice and just like floating. I don't know how he does it. So smooth, like just so limber. I don't understand. Minka's here. She's excited about it. Big Tanner Molendyk fans here.
Big fans.
But yeah, I mean, nice to see that hasn't changed. Like since this is the first time we've seen him in a year. It's nice.
What was so funny to me is I'm watching him doing these skating drills, and it's just like you said, it's just incredible. He is someday going to do a triple Lutz and score a goal, and we're all going to be like, yeah, seems about right for Tanner Molendyk.
He literally, like today, just watching him looked like he was doing like figure skating practice.
It does.
Like,
I bet he's a great dancer. These are things I think. I bet he's a great dancer.
Should ask him.
Maybe.
Hey, you were best dancer in high school.
I was. Maybe he wasn't making out with girls and he was really good at dancing. I don't know.
Maybe,
maybe we'll ask him that.
You two should have a dance off.
Break it down. What was so funny though is we watch him in these skating drills, and then we got a chance to talk to him afterward, and he was like, yeah, it was a rough skating. I've been off the ice for a while and I missed some time due to injury. And so, it was definitely not my best. And I'm like, oh, that's not so bad for you.
You're like, this is great. I'll take this all day.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Whew.
It was amazing. He also talked about dealing with injuries, and Tanner Molendyk, if you remember, right as the World Juniors were kicking off, broke his wrist, missed out on playing in that tournament. But he talked about too, and this is something I think, Emma, we overlook, how hard it was mentally to recover from that. We think about, physical, upper body injury, lower body injury, 4 to 6 weeks. But I think you forget, especially for a young player maybe going through this for the first time, how hard it is mentally to bounce back from an injury.
Yeah, definitely. And I think again, Minka really has a lot to say about this.
She is in on this.
She's like, let me hear about Tanner Molendyk.
Big
No,
fan.
I think that's a really big part of the development process, though, the player development process, because I mean, obviously you don't wish that on anyone and you don't want anyone to go through
Of
challenges like
course.
that. But I mean, this is oversimplifying it, but the whole, it builds character, or what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. I mean, there's some truth to that. Like, those are cliches for a reason, because they do they mature you a little bit, because it's like, once you go through your first injury, like setback like that, that's one less first that you have now
That's a great point.
in your development process. So like the next time it happens, and again, I hope it doesn't happen again, but just being realistic, if he's injured again, it's like, okay, I've been down this road before and I know the way. Like I
Yes.
know how this goes. And so, not saying that makes it easy, but it makes it less scary, I think, because it's less unknown.
Yes. And you learn to trust the healing process, and you learn to trust your body. And you've said, you can say, I got through that and I got back. So I do think there's a growth element to it. And look, as we say in the Kimmel house, nobody likes growth. But that's something that, as a young player, that's kind of the takeaway from a negative situation. We also talked to Kalan Lind, and if you could bottle Kalan Lind, I love his zhuzh. Like, he is just so much energy and excitement and joy. And he had a heck of a time getting here. He got here today. We didn't see him yesterday. It was like 5 flights, 4 canceled and then one, hey, we got you here, to get Kalan Lind here. But I do want to say, I asked Kalan Lind the question. I pinned him down. I made him tell the truth, because Kalen's brother Cole plays for the Coachella Valley Firebirds, who defeated the Milwaukee Admirals in the Western Conference Finals in the Calder Cup race. And so I said to him, look, on record, in front of everybody, Kalan, who were you rooting for? Your franchise or your brother? He was like, oh. He did come out and say, like, he loved watching Milwaukee. He watched a lot of that. And it was really great. And he's excited about the Milwaukee program. But inside, he was secretly rooting for his brother, because his brother's his best friend. And I thought, okay,
All right. Well,
all right.
that's nice, right, Minka?
Like,
Minka's really involved in the show today.
she's loving the prospect talk.
She is. She is. She, like you, she loves the little sprouts.
She loves the little sprouts. So yeah, we got to see some more of them today. Of course, they are going to be off today doing some off ice activities. They'll be back on Friday on the ice. And then Saturday is the Young Stars game that's going to be happening down at Ford Ice Center in Bellevue Saturday morning. So check out all the details on the Nashville Predators webpage. Woo! Before we sign off, though, today, Emma, let's tell everybody where they can find you, Minka, and your work.
You can find me and the occasional photo of Minka on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen. And you can find my work online at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work at Penalty Box Radio. Of course, you can follow the show on social media at LO_Predators. Be sure to subscribe to our show on YouTube. Let you know every time we have a new episode dropping. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to talk goaltending. And friends, it's Fun Friday. You don't want to miss that. So have a great Thursday, and we will see you back here tomorrow.